Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We're on final approach now to Sydney Kingsford Smith, and we'll have you at the gate very, very shortly. This is Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I couldn't be happier. Well, that's us. Coming in for landing. And look, I'm not sure how good a job I'm doing, but we are going to touch down at Sydney Kingsford Smith. I have great rudder controls below me on the thrustmasters. We're going too slow, but I don't care. I don't care. And the graphics are just beautiful. This is not my first landing, but it may be my last, especially in this plane. We're coming in just a bit slow, trying to keep the nose up so we can touch down right on the end of the runway. Bit of right foot rudder control to bring this baby in right at the very end of what I believe is runway 34L here at Sydney Kingsford Smith. Oh, that hurt. Everyone feel that? Oh no, we're going to go around again. No, we're going to just bang it down hard. Let's go back to the interior cockpit view. Beautiful stuff. Look, I can scroll out. It's wonderful. Let me just quickly kill the engines and hit the park brake. So look, I gotta tell you, this is a whole lot of fun. Like, lots of fun. And it's been a while since I've, played with a flight simulator. And I realise why I love it. Because it's this thing you just can't do unless you're a pilot. And by the way, pilots love this stuff. This is something that is much anticipated, probably one of the most anticipated games of a long time. And it works beautifully when you've got the whole setup. Now, a couple of things to point out first and foremost. This is a beautiful yoke from Honeycomb, available in Australia at JB Hi-Fi and the Gamesman, places like that. I would prefer to have a set of throttle controls like I do with the Logitech that I'm trialing as well. The quality of this yoke though is better than the Logitech, so I like the functional switches on it and things like that. But I won't lie, my favourite way of flying is actually the complete novice way, using a joystick. Now this is a Logitech Extreme 3D Pro. It's a $100 joystick. I bought it years ago for X-Plane 10. And I'll tell you why I love it, because it's simple. It's cheap for a start, and everyone who gets flight sim needs this. You can't fly with a mouse and a keyboard. That's just crazy. But this has all the axis controls as well as rudder control built in. And for me, the most important thing, simple throttle control. Using the keyboard for those things is a bit frustrating. So look, as a flight simulator, I can't tell you how good it is compared to flying a real plane. But I can tell you that going through the training program, going through some of the test landings, it's epic. It's extremely realistic in all the different formats. For example, I've stalled a few times in points where I thought I could just throttle up and pull out. Not the case. I genuinely think that's a realistic flight control, but I'll leave it to people who are actually pilots to tell you about the simulation aspect of it. What I want to look at here is the game, the simulation. How fun is it? Why is it enjoyable? And I tell you the number one reason why this is enjoyable, the map, the world. So let me take you to a basic flight setup. One of my most favourite things thus far is when you bring up the map and you say, I want to fly in my hometown. There's these planes all over the map and you think, well, what is that? Well, here's Virgin Australia Flight 524 coming into Sydney. On Flight Radar, it's there. This is real-time flight. And I'm going to say it's about 5 minutes delayed, but it's real-time flight information. And I think that adds to the reality of the simulation. And reality is the key to this simulation. Real-time flights, real-time weather, and genuine satellite imagery of the entire globe. There are 2 petabytes of data, of mapping information stored in the cloud that you get access to as you fly around. I think the quote, and it's on EFTM.com somewhere, is it would take 14 days or 14 years to fly the entire world over and over in a Cessna and see every part of it. It's stunning. And let me take you into a flight where we can have a look over Sydney, my hometown. Inside the cockpit here, you've got mouse control to kind of zoom out and right mouse to look around, a very realistic cockpit. I'll be honest, as a non-pilot, I prefer the outside view. But Let me just kill some of that sound there. Trust me, the sound is realistic. Now I'm gonna press V to bring up my map, get a bit of a sense of where the heck I am on this whole thing. We're flying pretty much northbound over Sydney. Now, honestly, the thing you need to understand is that this is like using, you know, Google Earth satellite mapping, but being able to fly around it in a plane. But it's so much more than that. What they have done is used artificial intelligence to interpret both the satellite imagery and the mapping data that exists and determined what's a building, what's a tree, what's a road. And where there's a building, they've put a building. Millions and millions of buildings. Where there's a tree, they've put a tree. Where there's a road, they've put a road with cars on it. Now, as luck might have it, I'm actually flying pretty much over where we are right now, where the EFTM office is, and this is clearly a bad move to be making. But if we loop down here, I can see very clearly that that is Hornsby. The reason I know that is because I can see down here, and if I use the mouse now to look around, that huge reservoir on the screen there, that's in my suburb. This is my suburb. Now, obviously a pilot would never fly down low enough, but when you get low enough, each house is a building. They have turned every single building into a building. Now, they're not real. So my house, for example, it's a two-story house with a kind of one-story part on the side. It actually has those two situations, but it's not at all the exact remnants of my building. It's just a building. There are obviously landmarks like the Sydney Opera House that are perfect, but most buildings are just buildings. A big shopping centre is just a big block and it's there. But you're not meant to be flying down at land level. You're meant to be flying up here and going, wow, this is spectacular. I can see Rose Hill Racecourse over there. I can fly down past the Olympic site, for example. All those different things. And I think that's what's beautiful about this, especially for pilots doing VNR, visual navigation. That's how pilots fly. You pick a landmark that you can see, you follow a highway, you follow a road, you follow a river. Those things need to be accurate. And they're not just accurate here in terms of a map, they are photorealistic. And I think that is going to be the most impressive thing about this for most people. I'm using the Thrustmaster rudder pedals because I really love them. Even though I've got this great joystick, the rudders are the one thing I'm really loving. But I can see myself getting the honeycomb throttles and combining it with this Thrustmaster pedals and really starting to love it. The Logitech yoke and throttle controls, there's a whole bunch of other things you can buy to actually build a cockpit with all the aviation equipment you need. Look, there's the Sydney Olympic Stadium. Look at that magnificent venue for an Olympics. Probably the best ever, let's be honest. You could spend hours just flying around. And the first thing you'll do is fly around your area. You will fly to places you've been, places you know. I flew to my mum's pub. I flew around Uluru. Now, Uluru is one of those places that they have spent some time on. They've made the three-dimensional version of that look beautiful and sensational, as you can see here. I flew around Heathrow, got out of Heathrow, flew there. I think I flew a little bit around Melbourne. It's just, you know what? It's actually a very relaxing thing to do if you're not trying to properly pilot, as we fly here with Kingsford Smith Airport in the distance. And then there's just those simple challenges. Now I can obviously challenge myself here. Of course, there are also air traffic control, so I can bring up the radio on screen. And what happens is I've then got control of that. I'll just bring that in here so you can see on the screen recording that I'm doing. So I've now got control to touch, one, and talk to radio control and request clearance to land, find nearest airports and those kind of things. And also when you land, you can request ground crews to fuel the plane and things like that. So yeah, it's stunningly accurate in that sense, and there's a lot of stuff there that pilots would utterly love, but for me, this is all about graphics and basic simulation. I find this view easier because when you are in the cockpit, you don't really get to take in the whole surrounds, and I don't know enough about what the instruments are. You learn as you go that Control 1 takes you in on the instruments. You've got different keyboard controls to look around the cockpit, but it's just a lot to take in, and I just find it more impressive to scoot around the air like this. So you'll find yourself spending a lot of time just gawking at the whole area. But then there's a bunch of things in the main menu that are well worth playing around with, and especially if you really get competitive about it. Go through the training session, learn everything you do. And I learned a lot in the 5 or 6 training sessions I did about the go-arounds, about the approach paths, about basic takeoff and landing procedures, all through the flight training. But then it's the activities that I love. There are live events, landing challenges, I think probably for the super nerdy AV geeks out there. But these landing challenges have been fantastic. I've done a lot of these landing challenges in both the epic and famous places because they look amazing, let alone anything else. So I haven't done them all, but I've done most of them, and you get a score after each one of them. And normally my score is rubbish. You think, 300,000, that's excellent. And then you see that it's 1.6 million for most people. But I think download the game, you challenge yourself, you have a bit of fun, but you're going to spend most of your time looking at the scenery and the other part of the time enjoying the challenge of some of these landings. There's going to be a whole lot of things in the marketplace, different planes, different liveries, I'm assuming. There's a lot of options for configuring your own controls and different things. And of course, you've got your own profile. So I can look at my logbook here and I can see, actually I thought it told me, yes it does. I've done 3 hours and 39 minutes of flight time. None of it at night, no, a little bit at night, because it's difficult. But it's a really enjoyable, as a content manager, there's a whole bunch of things that you can get access to once you're in the game. So that's the aircraft in my hangar. I'll just give you a quick look now at some of the other aircraft you can choose from. Let's just do one final departure from Sydney Kingsford Smith. So this is your basic aircraft lineup, A320, 747, and a bunch of fun little things like that little Red Baron acrobatic there. A whole range of little aircraft, some of which are really easy to fly, which is great. This little Icon A5, I flew around New York City. It was beautiful, beautiful to fly around New York City and take in that scenery. I even tried a water landing there. Yeah, it's just, they're really nice aircraft to play with and learn in. I've been flying the Citation mainly because it's got a bit of speed to have a good look around places. And of course, you can set all your flight conditions, different weather. You can have the artificial intelligence on for the air traffic patterns, or you can have live traffic. You can have live weather or preset weather. Literally the most customizable thing you'll see in a long time. But let's, for giggles, emulate the Queen of the Skies and her final takeoff from Sydney Kingsford Smith.
Sierra 747 at runway 16 right, ready for takeoff, straight out departure.
Let's fire up those engines. Look at that interior. Let's just zoom out a bit on our interior. Let's release the brake. Let's taxi this baby. Not taxi, let's take off. See, full rudder control here. I'm just going to be very gentle. A great rudder control. And let it get some speed. Take off over Botany Bay. Flaps away, gear up. Look at that shadow. I'm just going to hold that around and just show you how you can just twist around and the sound moves with the... Look at that. It's just unbelievable graphics.
Sydney Tower blowing Alpha Sierra 747 frequency change.
Now, I don't think I could draw a kangaroo, but what a stunning, stunning bird she is. And this flight simulator, it's probably going to be a lot of my hours spent here because it's just magnificent. Microsoft Flight Simulator comes out August 18. There'll be regular updates, downloadable content. There are 3 versions you can buy. The most expensive has more planes and more real-life airports. Every airstrip is there, but it's whether or not the airport has been built in fine details with all the gates and different things. A lot of work could be done on the map. There's no Sydney Harbour Bridge. There's little weirdnesses about the map, but I think that's only when you're down low and looking for something that you shouldn't be looking for. You should just be up in the air enjoying the view. So Microsoft Flight Simulator, utterly love it. Full details and some more photos at EFTM.com. I'll just switch the seatbelt on off, sign off, and you can get ready for service. Hold on! Ah!
Alpha Sierra, 747 approach, squawk 034.